Well, good morning, everybody. I'm really excited to talk to everyone about the world of direct-to-video. This is a type of subgenre that is really overlooked, I think, a lot of the time, and that makes sense because when you think about giant monster stuff, that usually means special effects. Special effects are expensive, and a lot of the time, expensive doesn't translate to direct-to-video. But I think there's actually a pretty complex ecosystem of movies that are being made and have been made in the past for the kaiju genre that have been influential and have some movies are just really cool. So I think I just want to spread awareness and give an example of a lot of different titles and maybe give people an example of things that they haven't seen before that they might want to check out. So my name is Kevin Dierendorf. If you've seen one of my panels before, you know that I tend to have way too much content for the time allotted, so we might be going very quickly, and for that I apologize. I'll try to record this and have it up on YouTube later, and feel free to come and bother me about any questions that you have after the panel. But basically today we want to give a rundown of the history of direct-to-video as a format, and then talk about some of the big kaiju franchises that you all know about that might have direct-to-video entries that you don't know about. Then we're going to go and look into independent cinema, which is an area that this really flourishes in and really helps a lot of people get their foot in the door to make their way onto bigger and better things. We're going to talk about original video animation, which is a huge market in and of itself, and we're going to talk about some American entries as well, so not just Japanese things. This isn't going to be every single direct-to-video kaiju title because there are lots, but I think what we really want to do today is we want to talk about stuff that was made for the video market, so something that didn't play in theaters, didn't play on television, went straight to video, and that is the intended audience for it. We're going to be talking about physical media releases because streaming is adjacent but not entirely the same thing. And we're going to focus on the giant monsters because there's a whole lot of titles also with the not so giant monsters. But I'm going to bend the rules all over because I want to talk about things that I think are interesting, and you'll have to deal with that. But just to set some guidelines, I think that there's a whole lot of titles that were produced by home video companies that then got theatrical releases. I'm not going to talk about those because that could cause this panel to really balloon. We're not going to talk about all of the various superhero things that are human-sized because there's many of them in Japan. That's its own panel, I think. And we can focus on some of the giant heroes and giant monsters, but we're going to keep things relatively giant this time. And while this is, in fact, G-Fest XXX, we're not going to be talking about any X-rated titles. Adult video is important to the development of the video format over the decades, but people would get mad at me. So let's just kind of kick off a little bit and talk about the history of home video as a means of primary film distribution. In the US, when VCRs first came out, the studios tried to get them banned. There were a lot of lawsuits where big studios are basically saying things like, well, if people can watch movies at home, the theaters will die, and we still hear those same arguments today, 40-some years later. But in Japan, it was a very different dynamic right from the get-go. So some of the very first video rental stores in the entire world were actually opened by Toho. So back in 1977, they opened two of the first places where you could rent videos, and then you would be able to watch a movie at home, and they thought, hey, we can monetize this instead of fighting it. And then other studios got on board very quickly. Kadokawa began doing same-day releases as their theatrical movies in 1982, and it proved very successful. By 83, you start seeing a lot of movies that don't even go to theaters, they come direct to video. And then in the late 80s, direct-to-video movies are outselling the movies that played in theaters. And it accounted for a huge portion of the overall profits. I think something like a quarter of Toei's money in the 80s came from direct-to-video titles. So what's the appeal of this compared to what had come before? Well, you have to remember, everything before the advent of home video was linear. You either had to go to a movie theater at the time when the movie theater decided the movie was going to play, or you had to turn on the television at the time when the television decided that what you wanted to watch was going to play. And this was much more convenient. It's basically the consumer on demand being able to see things. And this was revolutionary at the time. It's also really convenient that if you think about a movie theater, you have to like book an entire auditorium, and it's a big deal of, oh, can we sell enough seats to justify the cost? And a cassette tape is this big. You can just put it on the shelf and consumers can decide whether they want it or not. It's very low overhead. Because there are a lot of people that are trying to get their start in cinema, they're able to sometimes negotiate for independent movies, things that wouldn't normally play in the theaters, and the prices for licensing these titles is much lower than the big studio things. So it really led to a whole new artistic wave of people that had bypassed the traditional studio system that had been in effect basically for 100 years at that point. And because of that, they were able to really branch out artistically, do creative things that the sponsors wouldn't allow. You know, if you're doing a TV show on TV, you're like, well, we don't want to upset the advertisers. But if you're sending something direct to video, the only people that matter are the audience. If the audience buys it, you're good. So there's a lot of more creative freedom. This also means there's a lot less censorship, and that can often be a big selling point for people that really want to see, you know, a lot of swearing, for an example, in their movies, and they can see more violence, et cetera, et cetera. This is especially profitable during the bubble era economy in Japan in the late 80s, where there's lots of money coming in, a lot of people are willing to invest in upcoming filmmakers, and they know that you can make a high profit margin on VHS tapes. A VHS tape would sell for almost $100 in those days. So they would sell to video stores for rental, but a lot of maniacs such as myself would want to buy them so that they could own them in perpetuity. A quick note on terminology, because this is something that quickly gets confused. There's a whole lot of jargon that goes on in the field of direct-to-video, and basically I wanted to clear something up because I hear a lot of people call things OVAs when they're not OVAs, or V-cinema when they're not V-cinema. The broad term for something that is direct-to-video in Japanese is OV, which is short for original video, and if it's animated, then it's an OVA. V-cinema is a trademark of Toei Company, so it's basically a line of direct-to-video things specifically from Toei, but even everything that Toei does isn't a V-cinema. V-cinema was incredibly profitable for them, so every studio basically wanted to do their own version. So Toho has Cinepak, Nikatsu has Video Feature, Japan Home Video has V-Movie, Shochiku had SHV Cinema, and Daiei had New Movie Heaven. Another term you might hear sometimes is video through, and this is something that was intended for the theaters and had the theatrical release canceled and basically put directly to video. So that's another term that you might hear occasionally when dealing with a Japanese speaker. So as I said, extreme content was a big selling point for a lot of the audiences that were looking into direct-to-video titles, and horror was instrumental in the sales. It was one of the most popular genres by far, and people still collect Japanese horror VHS tapes. And it's got a lot of overlap with the tokusatsu subfield. So if you were to ask Shinichi Wakasa, who is here at this convention, what his very first movie that he worked on is, it's Gakidama from 1985, which is a direct-to-video movie. And his first theatrical film, Evil Dead Trap, was actually done by Japan Home Video. They just decided to put it in theaters because they thought it was worthwhile doing that. And this is common with many, many other Japanese people that work in the tokusatsu industry. You know, Kiyotaka Taguchi, who's also here, his second feature was a direct-to-video horror film. Tomo Haraguchi, his directorial debut was at Toho doing one of their direct-to-video movies, Mika Droid, which started out as Mikado Zombie. And even Gamera 3, the reason why that has so much surreal metaphysical stuff in it is because there was a video series called Scary True Stories that was really popular at the time, and they wanted to cash in on that by adding some of those elements into the Gamera franchise. So video unlocked a whole lot of different formats that really hadn't been possible beforehand. So some examples of things are bonus features. When you have something in the theaters or when you have something on television, occasionally you would get a documentary about the making of, but it was much less common. But once video was available, you started seeing things like deleted scenes and making of, behind the scenes. You got videos of music videos, supercuts, compilations, all these kinds of different formats that weren't previously viable because people really wanted to see this stuff, but how are you just gonna go to the movie theater and watch a bunch of deleted scenes? That's not very common. Video is also great for preservation. A good example of this is The Body of the Prey, which is a movie that was made in the 60s in Japan, and contrary to popular belief, it was never released theatrically in the 60s. It basically was produced over there and then hidden away. And basically what happened is in the 80s, it was sitting in a warehouse somewhere. Somebody found it and decided to release it on home video. And because of that, we can see this movie today. Otherwise, it would be lost forever. And this is a movie that Ed Wood of Plan 9 from Outer Space worked on, for an example. And it's not a giant monster movie, but I think it's really neat that this is something that wasn't lost because enterprising home video people just took it, changed the title so that they wouldn't get sued by whoever actually made it, and put it out on video, and then it became a mystery for many, many years who actually made this film. Similarly, for the case of film preservation, you have things like the original Japanese version of The Cat. The Cat is getting a new Blu-ray release from 88 Films. This is a Hong Kong production with a lot of Japanese talent, including Shinji Higuchi and Shinichi Wakasa again. This has a Japanese version that actually came out over a year before the Hong Kong version. The Japanese version went direct to video. It was only released in Japan, but in Hong Kong it came out in theaters. So it's without this video release, we wouldn't be able to go back and forth and contrast, okay, these are the scenes with the Japanese actors versus these are the scenes with the Hong Kong actors, et cetera, et cetera. The opposite version of that is you get things like King of Snake and Thunder Gigantic Serpent. King of Snake was a Taiwanese giant snake movie that was basically purchased by IFD. There's this guy, Godfrey Ho, that would buy up all sorts of movies from all across Asia and recut them and add Caucasian actors, add usually ninjas, guys in pajamas that were claiming to be ninjas anyway, and market them for the home video audience. But because he did this, this movie is much better preserved, because if you look for the original Taiwanese version of King of Snake, it's very, very grainy what you can find because Taiwan didn't have a good focus on film preservation. However, the IFD version that has the Caucasian actor Pierre Kirby in it for some reason is much more readily available. So if you want to see these special effects, they look better in the Thunder Gigantic Serpent version than they do in King of Snake nowadays. So, we've been talking about some weirdo monster movies that people haven't heard about, but did you know that Godzilla also had direct-to-video entries? Yeah, there's a series of cartoons in the 90s called Godziland, where it was a lot of educational things with Godzilla and friends on Monster Island. And they did a series of 4 direct-to-video tapes that basically taught about the Japanese alphabet and counting and addition and subtraction. This also is where the pink female Godzilla with hearts for fins comes from. So you might see some fan art of her if you look around the dealer's room. This has been recently fan subbed, but it is, again, this is Japanese for kindergartners, so it's not too hard to follow. But I wish they would make official releases over here. Other Toho titles that got direct-to-video spin-offs, we got a kind of quasi-remake of Atragon in the 90s, Super Atragon. This was a big deal when it was released. It had a lot of kind of media tie-ins because it got a novelization and a Sega CD game and a manga. But they must have not sold very well because they did 2 volumes and it ends on a cliffhanger. They were planning to do more, but they never did. And speaking of 90s Toho things that were canceled, if you've ever seen Orochi the Eight-Headed Dragon, you know that that also kind of peters out. That had another big media push for it, including a television series, Yamato Takeru. That series had low ratings, so it was canceled early, and what they did was they decided to finish it up with a direct-to-video series, so you can get an anime to kind of wrap up that whole storyline. And then also, a lot of people have been wanting to see Gaira the Green Gargantua back. There's a series of shorts in the 70s called Go Godman, and they had a revival in 2008 with a brand new Gaira suit, and it's directed by Masaki Tezuka, the same guy that directed Tokyo SOS and Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla, Godzilla Against Megaguirus. And it has a brand new Gaira costume as this red and silver superhero fights against all of the classic monsters from the show, which of course included the Green Gargantua. And then most recently on the Godzilla front, we had Gojiban or Godziban is a series on YouTube, a puppet show. It is absolutely adorable. It's absolutely hilarious. I recommend anyone watching it. But they did something crazy with their direct-to-video features because they said, you know, there were plans for a Mothra versus Bagan. What if we made that in our puppet show? So they brought back Bagan, this unmade Godzilla monster from the 90s that everybody kind of has long wanted to see on the screen, and they put Bagan on the screen. And because of that, you can now buy Bagan figures in the dealer's room, and I'm grateful for them to that. But this direct-to-video feature also has a bunch of other shorts on it that are a lot of fun, including a Christmas special. So Godziban is insane, and it's great stuff. Moving over to Gamera, a lot of people probably have seen the Gamera vs. Gara Sharp because it's included on the Arrow set here, and it was on the Shout Factory set. And this is basically a little 3-minute short that Noriaki Yuasa did for the Laserdiscs when Gamera was first released to Laserdisc, of like, oh, here's an unmade concept that would be kind of cool to realize. So we get this little short with a Gara Sharp model and a Gamera model, and kind of tells what this movie would have been. But yeah, that was made as an extra feature, which is something that you wouldn't have been able to really produce in traditional media formats. And along the lines of Gamera, you have this series, Cosplay Warrior Cutie Night. And original Gamera director, Yuasa, directed some of this. And this is a series of basically like Sailor Moon style magical girl things that have lots of cameos from other characters in the whole direct-to-video landscape, because all these people talk to each other. And one of these characters that shows up is Gamera. There's a scene where the heroes are being menaced and they pull out their Pokemon style Pokeball and throw it out, and Gamera comes out and fights the villains for them. There was also a short direct-to-video mockumentary that came out in the 90s between the Gamera movies, Giant Creature Council. This has a lot of like interviews with people in the world of the Gamera movies between Gamera 2 and Gamera 3, where they kind of exposit on the history and science and all these things that is happening in their world. It's a neat little video thing, but it's very, very dense in Japanese, so if you are looking for special effects, this might not be the best entry point for you. I wish they would have put it on the Arrow set or something, though. Fatal Prediction, this is one that I really like to champion, because this was actually originally considered as a Space Sheriff Gavan spin-off, but this was Toei's kind of big follow-up to Shin Kamen Rider Prologue in the 90s. And they had a huge budget for a direct-to-video feature at the time, which is basically $3 million. And it has a lot of the talent of Toei, including Keita Amamiya doing a lot of the design work. He's the guy behind Zerum and Garo, et cetera, and has this big Daimajin-ish creature that shows up for some of the sequences. I'd really like to see this one also picked up, but check it out. It's got some incredible wire work and really neat visuals. Metal Kaiser is a series that was intended to go on television and wound up being a video through. So if you've been paying attention, you remember what that means. This was Hideaki Tsuburaya basically left Tsuburaya Productions, went off and founded his own company in Shanghai and began producing a show that was basically an Ultraman knockoff. And they cut the plan of episodes back. It was originally going to be 52 episodes, then it was going to be 13 episodes. They only made 9 episodes, and then they only released 3 episodes. This show, while it was kind of a production disaster, a lot of the props were sold off to other productions later. So if you like the Chinese hero shows like Armor Hero and Golden Hero, you can see a lot of the Metal Kaiser stuff in that program. But getting onto more mainstream Ultraman stuff, Ultraman Great, the Australian Ultraman, we got it on television here. It was originally planned as a direct-to-video series, and that makes a lot of sense if you look at the structure of the show, because basically it has 6 episodes of Ultraman fighting Gudis, and then 6 more episodes that have nothing to do with that. And that's because in direct-to-video terms, usually a block of features would be in the 6-episode range. They would plan out for 6 episodes, and they would be very surprised if they got to go beyond that. But basically they did their initial 6, and then they did a batch of 6 more. And this is a very important title for Ultraman, because this basically reinvigorated the brand. There hadn't been any Ultraman TV shows for a whole 10 years before that. And this is what really got Tsuburaya back on its feet, and a lot of cool people worked on this, and a lot of cool people also worked on Ultraman Powered, which also was direct-to-video in Japan. It went on television later, but it was released direct-to-video. So this is a show that was made in America. The production was kind of a mess, but what's cool about it is Kazunori Ito wrote for it, and Shinji Higuchi did special effects, and those guys got together later and they decided to work on the Heisei Gamera movies, which I think are some of the best kaiju films ever made. I'll blitz through a couple of other things from Ultraman because there's so much content to go through, but Ultra Super Fight is a series of very comedic vignettes, so it's monsters going around about their daily tasks in town, getting into little funny skits, etc., etc. This basically paved the way for Ultra Zone, which was a TV series that came out about a decade later. Ultraman Super Fighter Legend, I think, is absolutely fantastic. This is an anime that basically has like very kind of cartoonish looking Ultraman, but they're fighting in a tournament like Saint Seiya style, and they have power-up armor because that would sell toys. And this was actually the last Ultraman title that was processed at the Tokyo Lab, so it's kind of a change of things because Tokyo Lab really processed everything before that. It's a bit of a shift over, so you can kind of, if you're going to delineate where's the line between Showa Ultraman and Heisei Ultraman, maybe you say Super Fighter Legend. Yeah, this was actually referenced in the Gridman anime as well. Another thing that really paved the way for the Heisei revival with Tiga, etc., is the Heisei Ultra 7 series, which unfortunately we don't have in the States, but it's a really cool series. All the episodes are like 40 minutes long, so it's more prestige format, but it's revisiting a whole lot of the classic Ultra 7 storylines and kind of fleshing them out and doing interesting new things with them. And this started with 2 TV specials, but then they continued it as direct-to-video. So we had a series of 3 episodes in 1998, and then 6 episodes in 1999, and 5 episodes in 2000. So if you have the chance to check out fan subs of this, I would highly recommend it. Another Ultraman series, Ultraman Neos. This was planned for a TV series all the way back in 1995, but it didn't happen then because they went with Tiga instead. But the pilot episode was actually released in '95 as a magazine bonus. So if you got TV Magazine, you could actually, through that magazine, you could order the pilot episode and get this VHS tape. Then, because of the success of the Ultra 7 series, later they brought Neos back in the 90s, around 2000s, and made a direct-to-video series for Neos, which was very fortuitous because then later when they had a gap in production of Cosmos, they were able to plug that into the TV schedule and kind of keep that TV slot alive. People might also be familiar with the Heisei Ultraman specials. Basically, there were 3 specials that were made for Tiga, Dyna, and Gaia. Each one of them has an extended version. So when they were first released, they were about 20 minutes shorter than the final versions. But the final versions are on the Mill Creek releases. So if you have those, you can see them basically little epilogues that continue the stories after the shows. Shusuke Kaneko actually directed 2 Ultraman specials. There's an Ultra Q special and an Ultraman special. Both of them reunite the cast of the original series. These were made in 2005. So you can see Hiroko Sakurai in that photo there. And these are essentially clip shows of the characters getting together and kind of remembering things that happen in the series itself. But it's cool to see, you know, the director of the Heisei Gamera series did direct this additional Ultraman content that, you know, a lot of people don't know about. And we got several kind of spin-offs after Mabius ended that really went into the flesh and bones behind the Ultraman world. And these tied into the movies that were going on through the Zero franchise and kind of laid the ground for each one of the movies as they went in. And I think with these specials, all of the like Ultra Galaxy fight things that we're getting now on YouTube, all of these specials are basically the spiritual ancestors to those, because they figured out that they don't really need to have face actors in these. They can have the Ultra people in their masks and film it on green screens and basically have relatively affordable productions that way. And it's similar to what was going on with Andromelos earlier, but it was a different format in that it wasn't made for TV, it was made for home video. There was also a dark and gritty Mirror Man reboot in the aughts, written by the duo of Chiaki and Kazuyo Tanaka. This was later compiled to play in theaters. And if you like Dynazenon, the anime spin-off of Gridman, they actually did live-action segments for that were included on the Japanese Blu-rays and unfortunately weren't included on the US Blu-rays. Another Tsuburaya-ish title. Junya Okabe eventually became the president of Tsuburaya, but he got started with a direct-to-video series called Dark Soldier D. In Japanese, it's just called D, which is terrible if you're trying to Google for something and just put in D. It doesn't work very well. But it might be a little better than the original working title, which is Beat the Damn Monsters to Death. That might give you a sense for what this show is like, because it's a very gritty, like guy in a giant robot going after monsters that are attacking in the city. Another kind of edgy Ultraman thing is Lion the Barbarian, which was produced for 13 episodes from 1986 all the way up to 2003. So this is really Yutaka Arai's passion project that he made at his own pace, basically, on his own time. But it's this kind of buff berserker Ultraman kind of character. And you get a lot of people like Yukijiro Hotaru from the Gamera trilogy. You get Hurricane Ryu, the suit actor from the Godzilla series. Shinpei Hayashiya, that there was a panel about yesterday. They are guests in this series, so they get a lot of people that are in the industry proper to come in and guest in this thing. And then that kind of really continues because Arai goes on to make another edgy Ultraman thing called Assault Man. This is kind of a significant title because it had a couple of spin-offs, including Assault Riser and Assault Kids. And Assault Riser is the thing that gets Zen Pictures into making giant heroine movies, and that's a whole other conversation, but that became kind of their bread and butter after a while. Speaking of giant heroines, there's this series called Mighty Lady. Mighty Lady gets kind of sketchy later, but early on, it's actually a lot of fun. This is basically a passion project from this guy Ichiro Omomo, who made student films, and basically Daiei bought the rights for these student films, released them on video, and it's continued long time. This design is by Yutaka Izubuchi, who designed Shin Godzilla, and this franchise has over 15 entries. It's still going, and I wouldn't recommend watching all 15. I'll just say that. But yeah, Omomo also went on to direct this movie, Star Virgin. I will clarify, there's also an American pornographic movie called Star Virgin, so be careful if you're searching for this. The Japanese movie is relatively chaste, I will say that. It does have a heroine that's kind of in this kind of bathing suit-like outfit, but it was a tie-in to an MSX game, so it's one of the very first video game movies in some ways. But it has a lot of talent on it, including Fuyuki Shinada and Ogawa Modeling that did all of the Heisei suits, and Shoji Kawamori of Macross and Transformers worked on it. So lots of talent on this, and unfortunately it's only been released on Betamax, Laserdisc, and VHS, so there's no DVD, no Blu-ray, so it can be hard to track down. Similarly, in that hard to track down field, you have Monster Commando, which is like basically a series of professional wrestlers as space bounty hunters that go up and fight monsters. So this is a kind of wild one. And another kind of female heroine thing, you can see the kind of armored form in that one photo there, is from Pretty Executor, which was done by Hurricane Ryu. This was something that he worked on, and you might know Hurricane Ryu as the suit actor of King Ghidorah in 1991, and he's done several other Godzilla roles as well. But if you ask him about this at a convention, his eyes will light up. Visual Bandits, this is one that was produced direct-to-video in 2000. I'm bringing this up just because this was just licensed by SRS Pictures. It's a really cool indie that has kind of a giant mole monster that's menacing a group of tourists. Kigai, which means like paranormal town. This is like an anthology, like Ultra Q style, but 2 of the episodes do feature giant monsters in them. And I will say this is a Zen Pictures thing, so you think, oh, this is Zen Pictures, this is going to be sleazy. But this one is actually pretty subdued, so I would say this is one that's worth checking out if you're afraid of things being sleazy. But sometimes you get other things like Sexy Rangers, which might be a little bit more sleazy. This is directed by Shinji Nishikawa, the guy that designed all of the like Heisei Godzilla monsters, the Millennium Godzilla monsters. You see him all the time. He's like very essential to the Godzilla franchise. He directed this direct-to-video feature. This, it doesn't have any nudity in it. I think it's called Sexy Rangers because it has this idol group. Sexy All Sisters was the name of the group of idols that are the main characters in it. But it does have the gimmick that they get their power from guys staring at them, and don't watch Psycho Shark. I don't know why this is here. Another really goofy direct-to-video indie is Bodacious Monster Battle. This is really cartoonish, and all of the suits look really cheap, and that's kind of the joke. This guy, Kenji Araki, went on to having a whole career of making cheap, goofy-looking things in a similar vein, including Duck Sister, which you can find on YouTube, and that is really some of the weirdest tokusatsu that you can find out there, but he's probably working on a budget of like a nickel, so. Not working on a budget of a nickel is Mirai Ninja, which is Keita Amemiya's first movie. This basically paved the way for him to do Zerum, which also led to Moon Over Tau, etc., etc. And this was a Namco production, so they had this video game that they were doing, and they wanted a video tie-in. And this has been released in multiple countries, but Mirai Ninja is Future Ninja. It was released in the US as Cyber Ninja, in Canada as Warlord, and in the UK as Robo Ninja. And if you ask Amemiya about it, he's like, good, I don't like the title Future Ninja anyway. This is basically a Ninja Star Wars, so I would recommend checking it out. And I'd watch the trailer, because that's a hoot in and of itself. The Monster Heaven movies, Monster Heaven and Monster Heaven Ghost Hero, are directed by Makoto Tezuka, the son of Osamu Tezuka. And basically these were pitched as follow-ups to the Daiei Yokai Monsters films. So the series from the 60s of like Spook Warfare and Along with Ghosts, etc. And the first of these is more of an anthology format. The second one is a single story, and they are absolutely fantastic. I definitely recommend Ghost Hero. It's about a haunted office building where there's a bunch of yokai that are fighting the ghost of a samurai, and there's robots, etc., etc. It is absolutely insane. If you've seen Legend of Stardust Brothers, you know that Makoto Tezuka does some weird stuff, and this is absolutely worth checking out. Tomo Haraguchi of the Gamera trilogy did effects on this one, and he also went on to direct Death Kappa. This movie was commissioned by an American company. Media Blasters basically reached out and said, hey, can you make a kaiju movie for us? And he said, okay. So we recycled a kaiju suit from a previous movie, Kibakichi, and that became Death Kappa. This movie has an alternate ending that was only on the Japanese release and has never been released in America, despite the fact that this movie was made for American audiences, which I think is really goofy. But you can see like Shinji Higuchi and Hideaki Anno, who directed Shin Godzilla, have cameos in this, and it's a wild, goofy film. Minoru Kawasaki, there have been Minoru Kawasaki panels here done before. He's done a whole long series of things called Den Ace. Den Ace film was just announced by SRS also. But there's, I don't know, something like 20 different Den Ace features that have been going back to 1983. And this is basically his Ultraman spoof, and he'll do all kinds of goofy things, like, you know, he'll have a segment where like he'll end the episode by being like, oh, I got all this mail from my fans, but I'm not going to read it because I don't have time, and he just tosses it in an incinerator, things like that. So it's that kind of sense of humor. He had a crossover with Gilala, the X from Outer Space, because he directed Attack the G8 Summit. So I think that's the most high-profile Den Ace thing, but that's one of those titles that's been around for forever, and a lot of people are familiar with it. He also did a series called Earth Defense Girl Iko-chan. These are similarly low budget but a lot of fun. It's almost like a James Bond thing where a different girl plays Iko-chan in each movie, but it's this Earth defense team that has goofy monsters and aliens, and the main character is a 11-year-old girl or something. Budaman is a direct-to-video feature from 1986, but it did get a follow-up called Buddha Powers in 2004. This is a Buddhist-themed superhero, and they fight against the evil Christian invaders. So it's a very different perspective, but it's good to see, you know, a different cultural take on religious interactions, I suppose. Speaking of Sentai spoofs, you got Patriotic Sentai Giant Japan, and this is from Daikon Film. So Daikon was a group of university students who basically were commissioned to do an opening for the Daikon, the big convention in Osaka, and they started making shorts for the conventions, and then they started selling them on video to make their money back. So notably among those, you have Mr. Hideaki Anno, responsible for things like Shin Godzilla and Shin Ultraman, who did a Daikon short for The Return of Ultraman, as you can see in the bottom there. And he just plays himself. He plays Ultraman as Hideaki Anno wearing an Ultraman-colored jacket, but he fights a giant monster that's a really good-looking giant monster suit. So people will be like, oh, he just plays it in a jacket because he didn't have the budget. Like, no, he's playing it in a jacket because that's funny. But the final Daikon film was this 16mm production called Orochi Strikes Again, which is Shinji Higuchi's debut work. And it's a kind of a giant space robot monster thing where there's this rampaging eight-headed serpent that's commanded by little goblin aliens and is pretty funny. But this was released by Bandai after Daikon fell apart, but they'd already changed the title of the company to Gainax at that point. So there's a bit of a debate: is this the final Daikon film, or is this the first Gainax film? And if you look at some of the compilations, you can see Daikon film over here. We're not seeing any Orochi stuff in it, but if you look at the Gainax compilation poster, you can see the eight-headed serpent and some of the little frog aliens in the corner there. So really, you could say that this is what leads to things like Neon Genesis Evangelion and Gunbuster, etc., etc. Speaking of Gunbuster, that's the direct-to-video series that Anno did that was really his professional directorial debut. This is a 6-episode series, and absolutely fantastic, one of the best anime OVAs ever made. And if you were a fan of Shin Godzilla, there are a lot of parallels. You have beam spanning, you have a sassy foreign female character. The last episode of Gunbuster is in black and white for no reason, which predates Orthochrome. You have a mysterious ending that people debate what exactly it means, and you have lots of on-screen captions, so you can see all of the DNA of Shin Godzilla already on screen in this direct-to-video series from the 80s. Another giant robot series from the 80s that people might be familiar with is Patlabor. This was by Mamoru Oshii of Ghost in the Shell fame, but also written by Kazunori Ito, who went on to write the Gamera franchise in the 90s. And this was actually one of the inspirations for Pacific Rim. There was a video trading club that Guillermo del Toro and James Cameron were in, and James Cameron gives del Toro copies of Patlabor, and del Toro really liked them, and he took elements of Patlabor and incorporated it into Pacific Rim. Meanwhile, del Toro gave Cameron Battle Angel Alita, which he then made a movie out of decades later. Patlabor is basically a series about giant robots are common in this world, so of course you need cops with giant robots to stop the bad guys with the giant robots. And it's just as goofy as it sounds, because you get things like, oh, here are the giant robots that are stuck in traffic, and so on and so forth. But there is a Kaiju parody episode, episode 3, that has like an oxygen destroyer and kind of a Green Gargantua spoof, etc., etc. We also have Giant Robo, The Day the Earth Stood Still. If anyone has seen Johnny Sacco and his giant robot and hasn't seen the animated version, definitely check out the animated version. This takes characters from all of Mitsuteru Yokoyama's other stuff and puts them into one series, and it's very retro future, so similar to Batman the Animated Series. Another one that's commonly in the conversation for best animated series ever made. Not so much cases like Demon of Steel. This is kind of a so-so giant monster feature. Similarly, Ariel is one that kind of gets dismissed by anime fans a lot. I like it. It has a giant robot that looks like a giant woman for some reason. Negadon, the monster from Mars. This is one with also a retro future. It's set in the far Showa future, but has a giant monster coming down from Mars and fighting a giant robot. This is basically all animated by one dude, which is the impressive thing about it. On the anime front, I want to leave things off with Luna Varga. So this is a sword and sorcery fantasy series, and if you look at this poster, you think, oh, this is somebody riding on a giant Godzilla-sized dragon, right? That's not actually the case. She is fused with it. That Godzilla giant-sized dragon is coming out of her butt. So basically, this is a kaiju series where the main character is a dragon slayer that just has Godzilla for a butt. So if that's appealing, I would say check it out. Attack on Titan has many direct-to-video features that you can get bundled with the manga. There have been a lot of tie-ins for different toy lines that were done as direct-to-video in Japan, basically promotional shorts. This is something, AmaPro has these 3, but that's shockingly common for promoting model kit sales. There are many cases across time that do that. And that kind of brings us to close to the end of the Japanese portion of it. But really quick, I want to just mention Pulgasari. It's unclear because there's conflicting things. Some people say that this movie was a rousing success in North Korea. Other people say it was never released in North Korea. But when it was first released on VHS in Japan in 1995, they advertised it as the first ever distribution of this movie. So is Pulgasari, does this count as a direct-to-video movie? That depends really on who you ask. But it did get a home video release in 95 before its theatrical release in 98 to capitalize on the 1998 Godzilla movie. Is 45 minutes past, so we might be getting close to time here. I could run through a couple others. Galgameth, this is the American remake of Pulgasari, if you're not aware of it. It is really goofy. Doug Jones plays the monster. It's really cartoonish, and a lot of people think that this is a Monster Island Entertainment movie from Full Moon. It's not, but Monster Island Entertainment did make several, including Zarkor and Kra. These movies are available. These movies just got toys licensed from Seismic Toys, so if you're in the dealer's room and you see Zarkor and Kra, that's what these characters are from. They basically wanted to do a direct-to-video line in the States for giant monster movies. The States has a long history also of kind of like mockbustery things. There are some that are released in Japan despite being American movies, such as The Abominable and Creepies. Those got releases in Japan, but not in the US, despite the fact that they are American-made. The Mega Shark franchise, this was produced at the request of Japanese licensors. They're like, hey, can you make a giant shark fighting a giant octopus? And the Asylum obliged, and thank God they did. I'm gonna blitz over a few more just to get to our last few. The Mighty Kong, this is a musical version of King Kong, done in '98. It's not great, but it's kind of charming. Less charming are the tie-ins to the King Kong TV series, and we're gonna kick things off here with Batman. There's been several Batman fighting giant monster things, and they all come direct to video for some reason. So if those sound interesting, check them out. But I think we're about at time, so we'll just leave things off, and thanks everyone for coming.